Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of Think Business. Looking forward to talking with Kevin Akeroyd. Not a relation to Dan, so I'm sorry to disappoint. But nonetheless, CEO of Sovos, which I'm looking forward, Kevin, to talking to you. You're a tax and compliance company for Fortune 500 companies. So we'll get into all of that. Your website, sovos.com. Okay, so you're the CEO of how many people in your organization?
Just shy of 3,000.
Okay, that's what I thought. Global.
Yep, very.
Okay. Tell the Think community, what does the CEO look like today? Right, we live in a world that is global, hybrid, in the office. How does a CEO show up today?
Oh boy, that is a great question. Early and late. Let's start there, because business is global, right? And it seems like even if you're a small business now, you're crossing borders, and right with everything digital, apps, internet, e-commerce stores, etc. Even small businesses tend to be more and more global. When you're a 3,000 person company like us, and you have over half your employees and over half your revenue outside the United States, which is we do based on the nature of the business. The first part of your question is you show up early and you end late, so you can catch Europe. You can catch Europe before they go home, and you catch Asia as they're waking up, and everywhere in between. And that's not just a time zone thing, John. It's and this is a little bit of a charged term, so I'm reticent to use it, but I don't mean it in a political or woke or any other way. But inclusive is the right word, because if you're dealing in 52 countries and your customers are in 52 countries, right, and you got multiple languages and multicultural differences, and partners, etc., you darn well better be inclusive, because if you just take a U.S. centric, it's just not going to work with your employees, with your partners, with your customers, with your shareholders anyway. So you really do need to realize global means global, and you need to be a global company, but you need to think, act, execute, deliver locally. And that means culturally too, not just with your technology or with your services team. And the third team is, holy smokes, you better be nimble. Even though, John, I've got all this gray hair, what little is left of it, there's not much left, doing things certain ways as you come up through your careers. But boy, if you're a leader today, stuff is changing so fast in every single way. I mean, you name it, right? Never mind just technology. So if you're not kind of nimble, flexible, adaptable, you're probably going to get buried and run over, because the market just doesn't tolerate rigidness, lack of flexibility. And then I think right now, I'm going to use one more, and I can keep going unless you want me to. I think you kind of need to be a little bold right now. This is not a world or an economy or a business environment for the timid or the meek. Be bold, right? Fail fast, take risk, make them educated, right? So I'll stop at those four, John, unless you want to keep me going.
Yeah, I want to dive into those, because I think you bring up some really good points. And it used to be that you're talking about being inclusive. And I still think it's really, really important to, if you can, to some extent, make everybody feel important and connected to the company.
Very much so.
It used to be called walk and talk management. I was I've managed big real estate businesses where and had my own internet company. You're walking and talking to everybody, because used to pre-COVID, you were in the office and you were flying to other offices, and today a lot of people are remote. So just to give me the Think community a glimpse, you have a little shy of 3,000 people. How many work in an office, and how many are hybrid?
Boy, in the United States, it's probably 80% in the office hybrid, 20% still remote. But if you're near, like if you're within a 50-mile radius of a location, you're going to be in the office at least 3 days a week. So probably 80-20. And then, it's almost 100-0 back to the office in countries outside the US. And we have offices in Lisbon, in Stockholm, in Istanbul, in London, in Santiago, in Dubai. I mean, we're in Asia Pacific offices, Latin American offices, and European offices, and even one Middle East office in Dubai. And for the most part, they're all back to work pretty much full time.
Yeah.
It's the United States that has stayed hybrid for people that are near an office. And if you're a valuable employee that's producing, but you're 200 miles from an office, then those people are still completely remote. Yeah. Those are the rough. That's the rough math.
Yeah. No. Thank you for that. So I want to kind of talk about the idea of making everybody feel connected to the company, making everybody feel connected to, of course, the CEO, but their immediate manager. I'm a big believer that people leave managers, not companies, typically. Being nimble, being bold. And I want to kind of put that all under the umbrella of retention. Finding quality, great employees. I'm a big fan of only hiring great. If people are in the wrong seat, find the right seat for them, train them up, or help them find something else to do that is within alignment that in their talents. And so retention is really hard, and finding great is really hard. And so how are you doing that?
Boy, holy smokes, we got 3 hours instead of 10 minutes on that one, John. I'll try to be succinct in this, but this one warrants a couple bullets. Maybe at the highest level, I believe this, and I hope it doesn't sound too remedial, but this has to be important enough to be a company priority. A lot of people don't, if it ain't a stated priority, and then if it doesn't have,
I think retention and recruiting, both.
And recruiting, right?
Number one, right. Yeah.
Retention and recruiting, and then I would even add to that development, right?
Training,
upskilling,
absolutely.
The whole life cycle of employees.
And I don't think, Kevin, to that point, I don't think enough companies. I work with a lot of companies on training salespeople, training managers, working with leaders. Sometimes they're putting the training piece on hold, and not that companies need to always hire me, but even figuring out how to do it internally so that training, to your point, I agree, is part of the bedrock through line culture of the firm.
Training in the door. And then again, we talked about fast-paced, nimble, adaptive. If you're not constantly developing, upskilling, cross-training, et cetera. So kind of back to my.
But I will say this too. I don't mean to interrupt you again, but
no, it's okay, John.
I think it's really important where it's not just the big workshop and the big training.
No,
it's the follow-up from that, the one-on-one, the small group. People's attention span is less than a goldfish today, less than 12 seconds. It's about 7-8 seconds. And so, I see a lot of companies where they have, sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. They'll have me come and do these workshops or keynotes, and I'll say, hey, follow-up is also really important. You should, think about one-on-one or small group. No, we just want to have the one. But the ones that have the consistency and keep the shelf life of the message are the ones that can quantify and see the results.
Boy, I could not agree more with every word you said. And again, it kind of comes back. So everything you and I just said for the last 2 minutes is actually a pretty big organizational commitment to walk the walk instead of just talk the talk. So where I started, we always have, our value creation plan is the word we use. What are the 6 things this year that are going to drive the most value in the company? And this employee committee is always one of them, right? That means it has hard KPIs, hard scorecards. It's tied to management compensation, right? It has shamification along with gamification if you're not doing it right. Performance review. It has a budget. So one, it actually has to be a pillar that from the CEO through the ELT all the way down actually treats that formally. Because if you don't treat it that formally, you're not really going to drill it in the way you articulated, John. That's kind of at the umbrella. I think that's a starting point. And then we do a couple things. One, we try to do a lot of stuff bottoms up, meaning like we have a cultural committee, and it's derived of every function in every country, individual contributors, right? They're the ones that literally every month tell senior leadership, this is what we need to be doing better on employee experience or whatever. So that's people will be trained, developed, will come, will stay more if they feel like there's employee wellness, employee care, employee engagement, employee whatever. That's huge because that actually goes longer than the actual training. Two, we're always polling both up and down. So for instance, and usually they benefit. So go figure, John. What a surprise. One of the most important things to me as a CEO and my leadership team is upskilling my employees on AI, right? And what that means in support is different than what it means in sales, and that's different than what it means in development. That's different than what it means in finance. Guess what the number one topic 3,000 employees want? They want formal AI skilling, right? Because they want it for their resumes, their careers, right? So if you go dig, right, more often than not, you're going to find that what your 3,000 employees want is exactly what the executive team wants. And there's where you dump the money right into the formal upskilling and training. That's the second part.
There is one piece of that I would like to add that I see. Please, this is such a cliche quote. If Henry Ford asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. So sometimes people are so close to it, they don't know what they necessarily need.
That's right.
What I find sometimes is like, I'll give you a quick example because I think a lot comes out of this. When I do a workshop, when I do a training, I do a lot of one-on-one, but when I do workshops live and trainings, keynotes, etc., I'll say to the person, hey, what do you want me to talk about? They'll say, boom, boom, boom. I say, okay, I put together an agenda and I say, hey, how are this for the topics and the talk and the this? They said, perfect. I said, great. How many people will be there? 50, 100, 300, 400, doesn't matter. I said, okay, I need to talk to 6 to 10 people who are going to be in that room because I know what you, Kevin, want me to talk about, but I want to call them. If you can make an email intro, and I'll call them and say, hey, here's the gist of what our talk is going to be, time together. What do you want to walk away with? What is 1 or 2 or max, 3 things quantifiably you want to walk away with from that? What I find is after 5 people, that's why I say 6 to 10, all the messages are the same. But I get what the community wants, not just what the leaders want.
Instead of what just the CEO thinks they want.
And they have time to pause and really say, I want to walk away with this. And so that kind of falls in line to me, like when I'm talking to a CEO and they say, I'm spending X, Y, and Z on a marketing study to find out what my customers want. So I said, well, have you picked up the phone and just called 2 customers a day? Oh, I never thought of that.
Novel concept. Yeah. Well, I think there's three other tenets that, and again, this could be 3 hours. I think that both from a benefit to the company and around retention, development, value in the employee, cross-functional really works. Like, one of the biggest superstars in the company started off in IT.
Yeah.
Right. Then she went to support. Now she's probably the best sales engineer in the company.
It's great.
Right. Dealing with complicated tech departments, buying influences at Fortune 500 companies because she had her hands in, right? Because she handled 2,000 tech support tickets and she was in IT before that. So cross-functional, again, skills up, development's up. You got employees that are kind of right. They're well-rounded athletes instead of just being able to play one position. And boy, does that drive retention in a big way because they know they don't need to leave the company, right, to go take the next step. And if you're a 30-person company, it's harder to do. But most of us that have thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of employees, we have that opportunity, right, and we should use it. And that same concept around cross-border. Hey, spend a couple years in Portugal, then spend a couple years in Brazil, then spend a couple years in Atlanta. Yeah. And again, now I've got global citizens in the employees that are global and talk about retention. John, oh my gosh, those guys never leave, right? They never leave the company. And then the last tenet is.
But I just want to say one thing real quickly. Yeah. So years ago, and I collect everything. Every time I listen to something or this, I put it in. But this one, I don't know what I did with this, but I was listening to a podcast and somebody was talking about it. And I'm getting some of this wrong, but the gist of it is, they said, well, what do you do? They said, well, I want to say it was like 10 years to celebrate somebody with the company 10 years. We give them like a 1-month trip around the world.
Right on.
And they were like, oh, what does that cost? It was like cost. It's not about cost. when they get a trip with their spouse, a trip around the world for 1 month for saying 10 years, that's retention. Do you know what it costs if they quit at 9 years? Or and we have to retrain someone. So give or take some of it, but I thought it was brilliant. Right? So there's no way the spouse of someone at 8.5 years
is going to let them quit. That's right.
And you're going to quit before I get mine?
No, you're not. Exactly.
Around the world, I'm the one that had to listen to all the, post office stuff. Right. So anyway, I just thought it was from a retention.
No, and again, people don't really do the calculus and the math on what regrettable attrition costs them. And they make short-term financial decisions that end up being very poor because there's an order of magnitude cost to replace and upskill and get that talent to where it was. We constant recognition, CEO open mics every month where we employ 10 in call outs weekly, right? There's huge forums and channels to celebrate what good looks like, right? And then finally, this is a little bit old school maybe, but and again, in the interest, this does cost. I still go and I'm in a different office around the world every single month, right? And I have my leadership team do that too, because I do think that leadership can't just sit behind their desk. Leadership in the companies that I run, and I do it personally, you need to be out every single month. If you can do it, a week of it needs to be in employee offices and or customer offices out there, right? So I happen to be a pretty good customer of the airlines again, because I'm flying everywhere. But again, leaders underestimate how important it is to line employees for us to actually care enough to go see them, do town halls, do one-on-one, do the happy hour. Right. And that may be a little bit old school, but in my mind, it's one of the key ingredients. Exactly right. Yeah. So, and it's super effective.
Yeah. I mean, people need to feel connected to you. People need to feel connected to you. And I think it's great. All right, this is a great little master's class on how to be a CEO. We're recording this in 2025, so it's great, but it's a lot of timeless stuff. All right, in our last couple of minutes together, tell everybody, like 30 seconds, what you do.
Okay, let's see. Sovos does 3 things. 1, employee-facing tax compliance, like 1099s, W-2s. And like, for instance, the government is now going to make every single company in the world file 1099-DA, which is crypto, right? That means the IRS is going to go from 5 billion forms last year to 12 billion forms this year, every company in the world. So IRS is always throwing things at that. Tax compliance companies like Sovos help customers navigate that on the employee side. That's 1. 2, on the sales and use tax side, there are 14,000 different tax jurisdictions. So if Home Depot doesn't get it right that the tax on manure in New Jersey just changed from 7% to 8%, right? And they tax improperly all year, then they owe the government, they owe the state of New Jersey $2 million because they got the tax wrong on manure for every Home Depot store, right? That's sales tax, right? Those are 2 domestic. And the third one, and the biggest one, is governments around the world, all the big Latin American, Asia Pacific, Middle Eastern, and European companies around the world are rolling out these continuous tax control tax mandates, which essentially means you have to go do things a certain way digitally. And unlike the other 2, which are just fines, now that truck stops, doesn't cross the border, right? The supply chain stops, the revenue doesn't come, and you can't operate in the country if you don't employ. So imagine if you're a large Fortune 500, all of a sudden 80% of your revenue outside the US and 90% of your supply chain crosses a border. And if you're not in compliance, right, as any goods, right, one way or the other, cross these borders with these mandates, literally you don't operate. That's become awfully important. And they need one provider that can help them manage 85 different tax authorities and 85 governments around the world, right, the same way. So governmental, right, tax controls, sales and use tax in the United States, and keeping you clean on employee stuff like 1099 and W-2. That's 90% of what companies that's 90% of what Sovos does. And that's what most of the companies that are big like us in the industry do, is those 3 things.
I love it. Yeah. In college, I double majored in economics and journalism. And at one point I wanted to major in business, and I love business, but you had to pass accounting. And I hated accounting so much. And I was always really good at math. I was actually an actuarial science major for a minute, but I hated accounting so much that I ended up dropping it twice and thinking, I'm just going to have an accountant. So you know, I love what you're talking about, which is it's so important to rely on experts that know all the rules, that know what's in compliance. And it's great. All right. We have 1 minute left. So
John, I got to share with you though. Me too. I hated accounting so much. I was going to be a CPA. It kicked my rear end so hard. I dropped it, and I decided the whole sales and marketing side sounded a lot better. And I finished my business degree, but I've never touched accounting or even spelled it in my life. So you and I are kindred souls on that.
Yes, and I remember thinking, what's so hard? Debit, credit. I'm good at math. I couldn't wrap my arms around it.
It crushed me too.
5 seconds each. Book that had a big impact on you.
Ever? Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand.
You're an intellect. I like it. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received.
Treat others the way you want them to treat you.
Perfect. Finish this sentence. One thing everybody can do to step into their interpersonal CEO, regardless of what position they hold within a company, is
intellectual curiosity and striving to go chase it.
Love it. Tell everybody again where they can connect with you.
Kevin.Akeroyd@Sovos.com if you want to email me, or just hit up the website.
I love it. Kevin, I can't thank you enough. This was great. A couple of highlights. You kind of taught everybody how to think like a CEO, but you brought it back old school, which I like. I'm 53. We're kind of ish the same age. Old school is today's school. There's too much technology.
Us old dogs just got to make sure that we can, in fact, or us old zebras need to make sure we can, in fact, change our stripes. Yeah. As long as us old zebras keep changing our stripes, that old school meets new school is what's going to win. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. Don't forget the fundamentals. Think community. We talk about it a lot. Getting in front of your people, feeling connected. People want to feel connected. They want to know you're accessible. It's so important. Kevin, stay on for a minute, but this was great. Reach Kevin.
Thank you.
If you want to talk about any business, sales, leadership coaching, you can reach me at johndwaskin.com. Kevin, just hold on 2 seconds. Thanks, everybody.